Did you catch it at the end of the episode?
No, I didn't. What are you talking about? Oh, the
We'll
hand
get
over
there,
the
we'll
heart
get there.
movement. Okay, I guess. Welcome to Worse Than the Board, the Star Trek podcast. Each week we unpack new episodes of Star Trek with fans new and old. We also showcase and raise funds for causes near and dear to us in the name of solidarity, reconciliation, and justice. I am your captain, Shane Holland. I'm here with my number one, Ron Sly. Hey, Ron.
Hello, Captain.
And our chief engineer, Ravi Joshi. What's up, Ravi?
Hello, everyone. What an episode.
What an episode. What an episode. We are all going to have different things to say about it, I feel. We are, of course, here to talk about this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery, the season finale of Star Trek Discovery Season 3, and I am so excited to welcome aboard our special guest, Ambassador Kristen Yee. What's up, Kristen?
Hi.
You're not watching the video if you're listening to the podcast, but you may see that Ravi and Kristen are filming together in Ravi's lovely home studio.
That's right.
For some context, Kristen and I are partners, so
okay, that all makes sense.
you get a lot in the YouTube. There's a lot of subtext in the YouTube channel, so if you're not subscribed, go on over there and click subscribe. Oh my goodness!
Like and subscribe. Collectively, of course, we are Worse Than the Borg. But before we go into anything else, Ron, please lead us off in our commitment to reconciliation.
Absolutely, Captain. This mission log is being recorded on Treaty 13 land, and the participants are committed to reconciliation here on Earth. We believe the United Federation of Planets would fully support the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. All tuned-in Terrans are encouraged to participate in the direct action discussed later in this log.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ron. Now, Kristen, welcome to the podcast. I want to know, what's your history with Star Trek like? Are you a longtime fan? Is this your first season? What's going on?
Oh, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. My history with Star Trek is long, but we don't have a very good relationship.
Oh.
So
a fraught relationship.
I know, right? Let me tell you about it. So my dad used to watch, I think it was Next Generation, TNG, I've now learned to call it. When I was
you're
a
being
small
trained
child.
well. Great, yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying. I have to, right?
Yes, with that one, yeah, for sure.
And so we used to sit in the living room. He wouldn't often co-opt the TV, but there would be some times where he would. And the idea is that you all sit there and you're fine, this is what we're gonna do for an hour. But I could not sit there. I had to leave the room. I was so bored, and I was how are there people who love Star Trek? I don't understand Trekkies. I just don't identify with them. But now, being in a relationship with Rav for a few years now, Star Trek has emerged in my life. We got a recommendation from a friend to watch only the Star Trek episodes that are above a 7.5 IMDb rating.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've watched some previous, I don't even know what
series.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Next Generation. We watched some on our trip to Colombia, so we had no internet connection, and so we'd be in a hostel watching Star Trek on an iPad, and that was fun. I like that.
It was fun. It was a nice break from the world, as is Discovery right now. So now
Certainly.
I've watched, I think all but maybe season 1. Maybe I've watched season 1.
No, you've watched season 1.
I've watched all of Discovery. I have enjoyed it immensely.
That's great. I mean, season 1 and 2 certainly are not the most memorable parts of Star Trek Discovery, I think, now that we've reached the end of season 3, but we will talk about that. So what did we think of this week's episode? I guess for the people listening to us, Ravi, Ron, and I all kind of watched this episode together last night. We timed it up, and we had Zoom on in the background, and we were texting each other. So we got to see some real-time reactions. They both got to watch me basically cry for the last 5 minutes of airtime.
And can I also say that we all had our respective partners by our side being very patient with us as we simultaneously watched and texted, and then I got this Ronnie's partner was very, it was very cute to watch. The sort of like the holding close. What's that? This was an enjoyable experience for me.
Yeah, for all those like young nerds out there is love in your future.
Yeah,
there are
love Star Trek and find love. It is possible,
and they will tolerate you and maybe even come on your podcast.
Yes,
Curious that I'm not sure.
Maybe even produce your podcast.
I loved the episode. I have loved this whole season. It's been some soul food type stuff. But it's always don't read the internet comments. And like sometimes before an episode comes or we do a recording, I'll just go and see what people are saying. I only did a cursory glance because like space.com was like very rude about this episode. And the IMDb rating is 6.4. Which I just don't get it. I don't know if people wanted something else. The ending of this was
beautiful.
Is what I wanted. It's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Like, why are the nerds mad now? I don't know.
And frequent listeners will recognize, I don't really give every episode a pass. And I thought this was an incredible episode. There were a couple, like, I'm never going to like the droids as Ewoks kind of, I'm never going to like that.
I thought they were very cute.
I love
and
them.
Like the altruistic nature of the one that
saved
are you
Olo?
with their spoilers? Do we have to talk about no spoilers?
Okay, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about this whole episode. Okay. We're getting ahead of ourselves. So but not by too much, because I don't have any Trek news. The biggest Trek news this week was that this is the season 3 finale of Star Trek that we just watched. We already know that they're going to start filming season 4 in February. We know that Lower Decks is coming back for season 2. We've got new seasons of Star Trek coming for ourselves, Wars in the Borg. We are going to be back next week with kind of recap of the whole season and a retrospective. And then after that, we think we may be doing a review of Lower Decks. So stay tuned for that.
Can I just point everyone to the Worse Than the Borg Twitter feed because I retweeted David Ajala's photo of the season 3 cast, and it's
so nice,
teary-eyed, beautiful. It's lovely.
Yeah.
So that's my Star Trek news chime in is check out Twitter.
Yes,
and
please.
ask yourself, where is Lieutenant Nilsson?
Oh.
Is she not a cool kid anymore? Did she get cut? What's going on?
What happened to Lieutenant Nilsson?
Stay tuned for later in the episode.
Well, let us take a very short break for ourselves. Be sure to help support this week's direct action, which we will tell you more about after our episode discussion. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please remember, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, leave a nice review, and, tell your Trekkie friends about us. So we will be right back, and we will break down this season finale of Discovery.
Woo!
Welcome back. This week we're discovering...
What are we discovering?
We're going to keep this week we are discovering Star Trek Discovery, Season 3, Episode 13, That Hope Is You, Part 2. It was directed by returning director Olatunde Osunsanmi and written by Michelle Paradis. Ravi, can you tell us what happened in this episode in around a minute or two?
No, the answer is no. I cannot tell you in around a minute. Be warned, from this point on, episode will contain major spoilers. Okay, Osira has control of the Discovery and tries to blast her way out of the Federation space, just as the Navarre arrive in response to Burnham's distress call from last episode. She convinces Admiral Vance to let them go. Osira docks the ship on the Viridian and shuts off life support to the lower decks to neutralize the bridge crew. Book gets taken into sickbay to be tortured, but Michael manages to free him and they escape. She sends a message back to Tilly to destroy the warp nacelle to stop the ship dead in its tracks. Tilly and the bridge crew are slowly suffocating meanwhile. They send Oo to finish the job and successfully bring the ship out of warp. Book takes care of Sarah while Michael reaches the main computer at the same time as Osira. Michael kills Osira after coming out of a weird control thing and reboots the ship, putting her back in control. Meanwhile, Saru and the away team learn the truth of Sukal's past. His mother's death led the child Sukal to break down. His DNA, altered in utero by the dilithium planet, caused a resonant frequency when he screamed and resulted in the burn. Culber, Adira, and Gray bring down the crashed ship's holoprojectors. Saru reveals himself as Kelpian to Sukal and pacifies the situation on the planet. On the Discovery, Aurelio reveals that Book may be able to pilot the spore drive because of his unique empathic abilities. Michael tests the theory while also ejecting the warp core and hoping to blow a hole in the Viridian. They jump to the dilithium planet, rescuing the away team and Sukal. The Discovery returns to Starfleet headquarters. Saru takes leave and brings Sukal to Kaminar. The chain is fractured without Osira, and the Federation begins to renew its bonds. Lieutenant Sahil is officially commissioned as a Starfleet at Starfleet headquarters, and with Saru off duty, Burnham is promoted to captain of the USS Discovery A, on a mission to deliver dilithium to friends old and new and reconnect the galaxy. Back to you, Shane. What an episode.
Da, 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 da. It was so fun. So I kind of want to loop right back to what Ronnie was saying about people seem to hate this episode. I am in a couple other group chats, and my friends just hated this. Like, they could not of course they didn't like the entire season, and I think if you aren't on board with Michael Burnham as a protagonist, you're never going to like this show. And I think if you don't like,
How many of those people are white dudes?
they're both white dudes.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, point exactly taken. I think there is some valid criticism to this episode, and we'll get there. But I want to talk about some of the awesome stuff in this episode first. Particularly, I love that this whole season has been about connection, about the unity between us, the bonds that we create, particularly the bonds of chosen family. The USS Discovery crew is a chosen family. They all decided at the end of season 2 to bond together, to come into the future, to save one of their own, to be with their own, and explore the unknown together. And we've really seen microcosms of that throughout this season, particularly with the chosen family of Adira, Gray, Culber, and Stamets. And I thought that this was a really beautiful end to that story. We've had some misfires, maybe. I feel like maybe not everything that was explored in the setup to these relationships played out fully. But, I mean, from Culber finally being able to see Grey Tal, and his immediate response is to hug him and say, "You do have kind eyes," and to like welcome Gray into the family. Immediately choked up. At the end, when Stamets, who was completely sidelined this episode, finally gets reunited with his chosen family of Culber and Adira, how cathartic that moment was. I cried a second time. What did you all think? Kristen, did you see this thread running through the season? Did it impact you?
Yeah, no, for sure. It was really beautiful. I mean, like, to me, in the final episode in particular, when you talk about like Stamets and Culber like hugging Adira and like Gray being there, and before, like when they were on whatever the planet with like Sukal and all the dilithium or whatever that was, like that, like them saying to Gray when Culber can finally see him, and he's saying like you're seen, and he's able to like hold him and touch him and like make him real. Like, I think for so many of us, like walking through the world, you know, you're not fully seen. And so like to have so many instances where, you know, your chosen family does see you as like the full individual that you are, like that was a beautiful theme throughout both this episode and the entire season.
Yes, thank you. Ronnie, what did you think?
Well, I'm gonna jump into the end of the episode, Shane. I'm sorry if I'm like preempting you, but
Go for it.
They ended with the title card, which was a quote from Gene Roddenberry, and you know, Here in 2020, we have a lot of knowledge about Gene Roddenberry, and we love the cores of his vision. But there is, like, we'll just acknowledge some of the weirdness that's out there too. But they ended with clearly where they drew their inspiration for this season, which was a Roddenberry quote. In a very real sense, we are all aliens on a strange planet. We spend most of our lives reaching out and trying to communicate. If during our whole lifetime we could reach out and really communicate with just 2 people, we are indeed very fortunate. And this you can see threaded through the entire look these 2. So
I know they're just smiling at each other and winking.
For those who are listening, we are on a video on YouTube, and we can see Ravi and Kristen winking at each other because they have found that communication, and we all are looking for that.
Sometimes.
Yeah, well, it breaks down from time to time, but we've gotten so many great examples of it throughout the entirety of this season. It's been really cathartic to watch in a year that we don't have the same kind of communication and connection that we usually would with each other. And on the representation standpoint, it was a little like on the nose for Culber to grab Gray by the shoulders and be like, "We will make sure you're seen."
Yes,
So, like,
quite literally.
One of the only trans people on the entirety of primetime television. However, I do like what they are trying to do. We had people from a wide variety of people, more types of people than have ever been on a season of Star Trek before. And we got solid representation for all of them. I definitely cried too. And I also want to just pull it back to, Kadeem very astutely pointed out a few episodes ago that the queers are always just talking to each other. We did have a moment where Tig Notaro's character was with Olokashun and they had their own little moment. So, although we're still like, oh, won't Detmer? Well, won't they? So we are still packaged in this like little queer family bubble, which is a little weird, but like kind of nice. And kind of like how a lot of people build their families nowadays anyway. But also the continuity of the Gray storyline is going to be great. They're signaling that they're going to try and pull him back into corporeal space sometime in season 4. And we've had this storyline. It happened with Stamets and Culber. At least Gray is going to get the opportunity to be maybe a more fully developed character on the next season, and that I'm really excited for.
Yes, me too. I'm really excited to get more Grey Tal in my Star Trek diet. And there are plenty of great in-universe ways for that to happen. We already know that hollow emitters have worked in the past, in the 24th century, thanks to Star Trek Voyager. So we can only imagine that technology in the 32nd century will have come far enough to allow something like that to happen. It will be exciting to see. And either way, we are definitely just going to get more Adira and Gray and Culber and Stamets, and that I'm really looking forward to.
I just want to make, that we will find a way for you to be seen was a little heavy-handed as a line of dialogue. And I guess I just want to say, like, the fact that those plot points are kind of sloppy and have to be kind of jammed into the episodes is maybe just a little note to the writers to be more proactive and to have more foresight, because it does seem like they're kind of making up these plot lines as they go along. Whereas Definitely. A lot of the season has been really well thought out and really well scripted. So I guess it doesn't do any service to the characters and to the actors who are trying to portray these roles if, the key emotional moment is something as heavy-handed and clumsy as "we will find a way for you to be seen."
Yeah,
you kind of go, I'll give it a pass, but barely.
I did love and hate that moment for both of those reasons. Like, I love the message, but maybe the message could have been said a little more subtly than in like the most direct way possible. Like, basically, they had Gray, Ian Alexander facing camera, and they're like, "We will see you."
Okay, I will actually, I'll play the devil's advocate on this one. We've had so much, like, subtle telegraphing of queerness and, like, backstory and that kind of stuff. And so I don't know if this is their intention, but maybe flipping that on its head and just like actually putting it in everybody's face. Like there is actually, this is what we're doing. You know, stay mad, nerds. We're putting these people out there front and center, and you're going to get more of them. And they can all go watch Star Trek White Power after this.
All three of us in our group chat at one point last night said that this episode was gay. Even Ravi. I mean, to be fair, for Ravi, it was literally when the gays were hugging.
The obvious moment. And we don't often get a fully fledged Star Trek family on the show. You know, we had Cisco and Jake, and in some ways Cassidy Yates on Deep Space Nine. But this is like, you know, they're clearly adoptive children to Culber and Stamets, and the implications of having your family on a dangerous starship like this will be really interesting to explore, especially as Stamets has already seen what can happen when it all goes horribly wrong, and you lose all of your agency in saving your family.
And that was a nice point at the end, was when Admiral Vance was just like, I do have a family. It wasn't safe for them here. You'll see them at some point. Not like that was the most groundbreaking line of dialogue, but it did kind of world build a little bit, right? Like, oh, there's a history here. Just a very subtle throwaway line that actually did some purpose there. So I'm interested now, maybe if season 4 carries a lot more of that weight, because we kind of have seen a little bit of just like transactional getting through the season. It'd be interesting for them to world build and build out these characters a little bit for all of those reasons, and to see more of the adopted families as well.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I think now this is where we can bring in some of the criticism, because as much as I loved that part with Vance, this is like the 4th or 5th time that he's done something completely out of character. To the point now that I don't know who his character is anymore. Is he for Michael? Is he against Michael? Is he like rule abiding, or is he a rule breaking person? Is he empathetic, or is he like just pure reactionary? It's so hard to tell because he's been all of those things in the last 5 episodes.
That's a fair point.
I mean, I think it's okay, because what, like, to the point of connection and really like having these well-developed characters, people are complex and they have so many emotions. And I think that what like this season in particular did such a good job of was allowing people to feel things before they went and did, you know, like the hero saving, you know, like ship saving things that they did. You understood that there was a pause, there was a decision, there was some doubt in them, and that there was so much heart in a way that in so many other shows that would be like this you wouldn't see. So I didn't mind that about him, that you can't quite put a peg on him yet.
I'm giving you the snap, Kristen. That was amazing. Thank you. That's for all the haters out there, once again, saying that the show has no grounding to it. That is a perfectly reasonable explanation for why these characters are acting the way they do sometimes. And yeah, there has been a lot of complex emotionality, and the consequence of actions are weighed before the action is taken, which, yes, is so rare on a show like this, I think. I really, really want to talk about Osira. Janet Kidder did such an amazing job this season, and like Georgiou, I'm so disappointed that she's not going to be there next season. They had a real opportunity, I think, to have this character survive and maybe not be like the antagonist, but be a foil at least for the Federation's efforts going forward. Like, if they're, so they say at the very end in a throwaway line that without her, this whole like emerald chain collapses, which means that like a system of government that covered, you know, half of the galaxy at this point has just fallen because one person kind of failed at their job.
A chain is only as strong as its weakest link, Shane.
She was the strongest link.
Okay, it didn't really work.
Oh no, actually that works perfectly. If the weakest link breaks, that's okay. Yeah, okay, I'll allow it.
Can I just offer? I don't think that it's collapsing. I think season 4 would be really strong if you're witnessing a resurgent chain with it slowly degrading, and because then you have that conversation of what are these planets that are part of the chain, what are the virtues of the Federation, and this is about remaking the image of the Federation, which we know is sort of put into this evil category, but with the seasons of previous centuries. This is about remaking the Federation for the 21st century on principles that are genuine. And so this is an opportunity to go to all of the former chain planets and all the former Federation planets and make a new appeal to them, which is, I think, absolutely a not very subtle metaphor for what needs to happen in society, right? Like a new
deconstructing colonialism and bringing
a new deal that is green, like a new offer to people about what they can get out of society, that isn't just a remaking of the old, but it maybe carries some core principles. I think that'll be a very exciting season. I'm very excited about season 4. Let me put it that way.
Yes, me too.
I'm less excited about season 4.
And
it starts with the killing off of Osira. I thought she was a great villain, and they really needed that like strong like foil, I guess, as you would say, to drive a lot of this. And we're going into season 4 now with kind of like a tabula rasa, like we're a brand new season of Star Trek all over again. And I thought that Strange New Worlds, the Christopher Pike show, was going to be the kind of original flying to planet and the next generation
episodic
show, right? And now it seems like we have no overarching drama anymore to like carry these folks through, and they're going off for gelato on a space station, which is very TNG. But also, like, is that what I wanted of Discovery? I don't know. And this society still is being set up with a huge power imbalance. So the only reason that the Federation is able to be this force for good, again, I'm doing quotations, folks, is because they own all of the resources. Mm-hmm. They have all of the dilithium. They're the only people who can mine it, and they can show up and dole it out however they want. And jumping to the end of the episode, those are really militaristic outfits.
It's almost
as though they're worse than the Borg.
Oh, get out.
And so they threw this capitalism, like maybe democratic socialism angle into the show last episode with like the reveal of the chain being an actual society, but we've just gone right back to the Federation as America, thinking they're kind of like the people who can go and dole out peace and resources and fly around and solve everybody's problems for them.
But they just figured out that book species can drive the spore drive. And so this is going to be a really interesting thing, is the proliferation.
Not book species, only a handful of them. Because if you'll remember in episode 1.
I don't remember. Go ahead.
He is an outsider in his clan. They are usually a very
aggressive hunter
species. And he is the eco-conservationalist.
Right.
Not alone on his planet, I suppose. But so there are probably several books out there.
Well, his brother was also I think they had strong ties because they were similar, right? But yes, go on, Robbie.
No, I just think that that would be the opportunity to turn it on its head, is that the dilithium scarcity, to move from that narrative of scarcity and move. That was the one thought was, whoa, it's not just Stamets. More than they're going to start to crack the spore drive in a way that allows them to proliferate transportation for everyone.
Also, I mean, with the return of the Navarre in this episode, one has to think that they thought they caused the burn, so they abandoned the technology they were looking into. Now we have an answer that they had absolutely nothing to do with it. Can't they just set up this technology again and basically have spore drive for the whole galaxy?
I need more Navarre in my life. I was so excited to have them reincorporated, and that was my favorite episode of the season. Was the
Unification Part 3?
Yeah, it was so good, and so I'm sorry, Ronnie. I'm looking forward to season 4.
I want to hear Kristen's take. We're talking a lot of like space
shop talk,
geopolitical, space-o-political stuff. What did you see through this, Kristen?
I mean, I hadn't really thought about it until you all started talking about it. I mean, for me, the worst part of the episode was that there was no Philippa Georgiou, because despite like Michelle Yeoh sometimes having like a one-note character, she is like by far my favorite character in Discovery, and I am sad that she is no longer with us. And for me, like the downfall of the episode was exactly when Osira was killed, because then everything seemed to wrap up in this nice little bow, where like I can't imagine that, you know, as you said, the chain we've understood is this more complex society than we've been led to believe before. And if Osira like is murdered, and like we're able to then just like everybody defect and come over to the Federation, like that is skeptical to me, both of like the power of the chain and how much of a threat they actually were. And, you know, is there like some weird conspiracy theory going on? That's I don't actually believe that. But, like, it's just like, it is a weird power imbalance like there. Cause like, yeah, maybe they could have dealt with this situation. Once Osira was gone, there wasn't somebody to like rise up in their place. But I think there must be somebody in the wings who's like, all right, Osira is gone, like I can take over, is like a question I have. But like I ended, like when they showed all of the Discovery crew in those uniforms at the end of the episode, like I felt very shocked, like with the degree to which, like for me, it was like a very like Cold War like echo to the way like that they were portrayed. And Ron, when you were talking about you know, like the idea that the Federation have this concentration of resources, and like at least what we know on Earth, and like these folks being descendants of us, and like how we have never been able to figure that out without leading to like mass like exploitation and murder of the people for whom like resources are extracted. And we saw that in the chain like as well. It like makes me very fearful of like the way that the Federation is portrayed, and it feels very like propagandic. So for season 4, like like the possibility that we could model a new way of being that like is unknown to like us right now, about how we could steer, you know, our lives into a better place. I don't feel that hopefulness, at least where the episode ended.
And Star Trek is just escapism, right? It bears no real relation to reality here.
Well,
Right.
some have argued that this season certainly has been that.
Well, that's how I treated it, but now I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have.
Well, so at the beginning, Kristen, I have been dying to talk about this with Kristen specifically for the entire season, but have been specifically not doing that because of this episode. We were saving it
go
up.
off, Ron.
So, you know, very early on in our conversations when we first got to the Federation, this panel was very mistrustful of what the Admiral was up to. We were getting very bad vibes. There's a lot of signals from the kind of beta canon out there that the Federation actually isn't all it's cracked up to be, and we get more of those signals in Unification 3. But then from Unification 3 on, it's all like hunky-dory and things are kind of nice. And so we, you know, you summed it up nicely, Kristen, which is we got everything wrapped in a little package, which is great for me as a viewer in 2021, stuck in my home having to watch TV with my friends on Zoom instead of in our building. But like for what they're doing for the show itself, like are they still building these signals in for like some of the structure of season 4, or is it just, you know, I can't imagine that the set designers the costumers who built or came up with those beautiful blue costumes would think that these boxy gray lines are a step up. Like I don't really know what they're trying to do.
Maybe that's the signal.
The new uniform.
I don't hate them, and I'm a pacifist. I'm a pacifist. But I don't hate them.
I thought
You can be a fascist in any uniform.
Yeah, well, exactly. We've
True.
already seen hyper-fascism in Starfleet uniforms in the Terra Firma episodes and all of the Mirror Universe episodes. I really just love the Cold War style. It felt so reminiscent of the old snap-up red uniforms from the TOS motion picture era. I really love the flash of color and the primary Star Trek colors of red, blue, and yellow, or gold, I guess. Yeah, I was really excited to see the change. Maybe I just love something flashy and new, and I'll come to like view this as, you know, the low cut season 1, the Next Generation style in the future. But in this moment, I was really, really happy to see the.
I mean, for me, I just thought it kind of like also washed everybody out. I was like, you all such are beautiful people. Like this gray is not your color.
Yeah.
Can I just say that, you know, part of this is I've always viewed Star Trek as a franchise where it's okay to be an optimist, right? So as much as I appreciate like the nuance and wanting to tell a story that, you know, big governmental structures like this are not clean cut and you can't, I love that nuance, but I also allow that you're allowed to have a home if you're an optimist in the Star Trek franchise. And I don't want them to lose that. I've said that before and earlier in the season is I think it's actually rather sloppy to just make the Federation evil. Like, I think that's actually really like one note and boring. And so I'm actually going to challenge the notion that we need to have a Federation that's evil or that has some sort of like colonial like overtone. I don't mind the nuance, but I do mind when it's just made to be so trivial. And
I love that you're equating evil and colonial overtone.
Wow.
Like just a little hint of colonialism is straight up evil.
Yeah. But
I mean,
but you know, there
that's
is
the conversation, right?
They
Like,
have a colonial overtone. They do. Like,
I do.
I think that it's important to understand what makes Star Trek unique in that regard, because it's got to take these world conversations and it's got to where everybody else goes and says, okay, and the world is evil. The franchise has to be the one that goes, but there's something we have to look forward to. It has to be the narrative of that. And so to the extent that that's nuanced and it talks about how we have to transform ourselves, but it has to be of all the like there's not very much culture out there that talks about the way we need to be to succeed in the future, right?
I think what you're trying to say,
find
Ravi,
another
is
franchise, right? Like,
yeah, that's Star Wars. If you really,
yeah, that's Star Wars.
what you're trying to say, Ravi, is personified in the character of Michael Burnham,
and the title of this episode.
Oh yeah, the title, yeah.
Yeah, that hope is you. I mean, this whole episode and this whole season has been about shared hope and how to overcome the challenges we need to band together and think of what the positive side of this looks like, and not just like think of it, but work towards that. And we've seen them work towards that this entire season. Michael's vision of a hopeful future and a better Federation.
and specifically that she does not quit. She always is looking for the next best thing. And right now that is the Federation. And if there is a crack in the Federation in a future season, you know that she's going to be going for the next best fit, right?
We are all Michael.
Now, I will say my least favorite part of this episode is when she
vomited cubes.
Well, yes, yes, exactly. I mean, I love that. But she
also
says,
radiation lesions. Come on.
Oh, I mean, she should be dead a few times over. She says that, like, unlike you, I never quit. When did Osira quit? At what point in this story did Osira give up?
She gave up. She gave up with Vance. That was what the reference
I think that's
was.
a slag.
Oh, that's so cheap.
That's not cheap.
It was one moment.
It was one moment, and she turned around and went right back to doing whatever. She absolutely she quit. She gave up. The negotiations were over in one day. You know, like we know here on the planet Earth, we can't get through a negotiation in 6 months. So
1 year, one lifetime.
As soon as she felt personally unsafe, you know, and that's the capitalistic nature of her society. So
okay, I guess, but what a cheap line. It was
so good.
It was Bondian. It might as well have been James Bond coming out there.
From an action standpoint, the fact that she just got 3 blaster shots from the whatever that was, it was kind of like the matter trend, anyway.
The data core.
Yeah.
But she kind of got like 3 shots, and they like just the directorship over that was like, you could have put more emphasis on the fact that the villain of the whole thing just
season.
Yeah.
Like, not even a close up of like a like a death gurgle or whatever it is. Like, nothing to confirm that she was actually dead other than the fact that she hits the ground.
Well, if Lieutenant Nilsson, heaven forbid, were ever shot in the same way, they would have spent 10 minutes doing a funeral and a whole thing. And so that's the discrepancy I'm thinking. There was a throwaway death for Osira. And yeah.
I'm just gonna go on. I was about to throw a curveball. You go for it.
I was just gonna say I'm a bit grateful for the distance that they put between us and the actual violence. So we see a lot of just like faceless stormtroopers like getting punched and thrown around and blasted and shot. But the only two like really awful moments are when Osira gets shot in the head and Sarah gets chucked out of the elevator, and both of them are treated with Turbolift, thank you. Both I want to talk about those two, but both of them are like filmed from a distance, which I like. As I get older, I really don't need the like saw death gurgle of every character. I get it; they're dead. We don't need this close-up confirmation. I'm very happy with that. Like the direction of both this and the beginning. First episode of the season are very good. Olatunde
Osunsami.
Thank you. And I think that I really like his style. It's very kinetic. He moves around a lot. He got we made a lot of JJ Abrams jokes in our group chat while we were watching it. But ultimately he has a great eye for what's important. And when Osira was on the ground, you could see a smoking hole was at her head. And that was all I needed. I didn't need the close up.
I did watch something on Amazon Prime last night with my boyfriend, and it was the first time in actual years where I had to turn away from the screen and say, I can't watch this anymore because it was so violent and upsetting. So you're right, Ron. It actually is kind of Star Trek, and it is very nice that they didn't linger on that because that isn't really what Star Trek is about. They're more about moving past that, but
and moving on,
and moving on.
I don't quit. Time to go to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. Now I've got to go save the universe again for the 5th time this week.
What was your pithy curveball, Shane? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I teased it earlier, but I finally know who Lieutenant Aina is.
Okay. Hold on. I just need to get emotionally prepared for this because this is going to happen. Tell me about this.
Okay. I stole this from denofgeek.com. Every week they do a breakdown of Easter eggs and references you may have missed. And this one, I would just breathe a sigh of relief because I thought I was going crazy. Why are they putting so much importance on this character who we have never seen before? So, turns out she's been hanging out with the crew the entire time. She's played by Ava Blackwell, and she's actually been all of the Osnulus species, and those are the aliens with giant
Wait.
Octopus head.
They have, so Ravi, you're gonna have to look this up and put it on our Twitter and plug it everywhere. But they are big-headed aliens, and basically anytime you've seen one of these big-headed aliens and a whole bunch of other characters behind prosthetics, much like
it's these ones,
much like Linus, much like who's the actor who plays Aurelio? Kenneth Mitchell also in the past 3 seasons is usually playing a character with a lot of prosthetics. So they have this stable of actors who wear makeup and false heads, and this is one of them. And so they just like Doug Jones, they let her shine without anything to
I thought she did great, but I just didn't care about her at all because I was
Same.
where the hell are you? And where is the actor who plays Nilsson?
Exactly.
Well, this is the thing. So part of my frustration is the scene with them all suffocating. It was a great scene, a great plot, but there's 5 too many people in that scene. It would have had just as much or even more emotional impact if it wasn't 9 people clamoring over each other, wasting each other's oxygen, trying to do a mission that clearly
Tilly,
one person could do.
Detmer, and Owo. That is all I needed like, keep it clean, send the other three to do something else, and don't show it. Like, I as much as I want to know more about Reese and Bryce, they aren't important in this story. What was important was that connection that we know that Owo and Detmer have, that connection that Tilly has to her crew as a leader. Like, that was the important part. You're so right. We did not.
What you're saying is that the Star Trek production team has an ethic that if you've taken a character and put them behind inches and inches of plastic for most of the season, they have some sort of obligation to get some good screen time and even some lines and some, reaction shots, and that's their ethic. I'm 100% there for them. Do a good job at it then.
Yes.
So I think this is going back to the conversation we had last episode about it kind of feels like a community is making this show. We had Kenneth Mitchell, some great real life representation for what he's going through in his actual life. Yeah. We have Ian Alexander and Blue Del Barrio being given a ton of space to be the first trans non-binary people on this show. And kind of a reflection of that is we get a little bit of this like school project type thing where we want to fit everybody in and everybody wants to feel good and everybody's getting screen time. And, the show is about the Admiral and Osira and Saru and Burnham. And then the bridge crew is this like, a role that's on a pedestal. You're on a bridge crew on Star Trek. It's one of the best things you can be, and they actually don't get to do a lot. And so I feel like the crew just kind of was finally like, okay, well, we'll give you this like last dramatic scene. And it, I'm not mad about it because it gave us a lot of other stuff that we don't get on the show. Usually you get people with bad blood and, people who aren't getting enough screen time and get moaning about it and leave the show.
I mean, that could be cool to do in season 4, where you get little like vignettes about the bridge crew characters that we haven't met and maybe some others. Yeah. Like, I have been waiting so long for Owo to like be more of a character. Like, I wanted to see them like shine, because you get little bits throughout the season.
And we officially know more about Owo as of this episode than any of the other bridge crew.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I can hold my breath for 10 minutes. Like, yeah, you can. Like, you're amazing. Like, way to save everybody. Like, it was awesome. I'm like, I want more of that. Like, you're obviously an amazing like person who has not been like showcased at all. Like, show me more.
And if like the most disgusting makeout that could happen with eyes happened, it was between Detmer and Owo this episode. Like they've made eye contact before, but it's been pretty, pretty clean. This was just absolute French kissing of eye stares.
I mean, you're on death's door, so like, what else are you gonna do? You've seen that. Holy shit, I don't want to lose you. We're not just swear on the thing.
We are now.
So, like, like they've looked at each other like, oh my gosh, I never want to like lose you, but like we have a job to do. And like, this was like, oh my goodness, we might never see each other again. I'm going to lose the love of my life. Like,
maybe in my head, this was just in my head, but I felt like Owo was looking directly at Detmer when she says, I love you. And then she realized everyone else was around. All. I love you all.
I love you, United Airlines.
I think I meant to go back and check the last episode, but we've heard Owo say all of you a couple times. I think she said it on their way out of captivity when she hadn't clucked into the plan that was going on. And then she's like, oh, you guys are all funny. And then we got the very all of you when she went to sacrifice everybody. But
very community minded, that Owo.
Yeah. And since we're talking about the bridge crew, I will just slip in. We were watching Kim's Convenience this week, and who should show up but Ronnie Rowe Jr., who plays Bryce or Reese, one of them. I'm so sorry if I mixed that up.
I think Bryce.
Yeah.
I don't know. I take it back.
None of you are to blame. They so little has been put into their characters, but we're supposed to care about them. So
but I did a little bit of Googling, and both Reese and Bryce were on stage for the first staging at Soul Pepper of Kim's Convenience.
Nice.
And the actor who plays Reese,
it's Reese, who's
Patrick Kwok Chun,
yes,
played Jung on Kim's Convenience, who is now played on the show by Simu Liu, who is going to be Shang-Chi, Marvel's next big superhero. So we've got a lot of cool Canadian representation slowly bubbling up. I've often thought about what happened to the original Jung. Like, he wasn't hot enough to play like Jung on Kim's Convenience. And I felt a little bit bad for him, but now he's a bridge member on Star Trek. So I'm happy for him. Good for you, Patrick Kwok-Chin.
We're a fan.
Also very cute. Like, I don't know.
I know.
Yeah,
Super cute.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we love recent buds. They've said nothing, but they are so hot. In one of my other group chats, it's literally just a bunch of us being like, I don't care if they never say anything. I just want them on screen all the time. There is so much more to talk about. And I guess before we go away for a moment, let's just talk about like the big conclusion. Michael finally gets to be captain of the Discovery. We have been waiting so long for this. From the very first episode of Star Trek Discovery, we thought, oh, I mean, this is obviously going to be the next captain of the show. And then they do everything to prevent that from happening for 3 years. This was cathartic. I pretty much wept. I was very satisfied. However, I want to send some love to Doug Jones, who was unceremoniously booted from his role after doing an incredible job.
He's just on vacation because I think there's more coming. I think Admiral Saru is knocking on their door. Oh yeah. No. As we all know, I'm a huge Saru and Doug Jones fan, and I am. The future has never been brighter for that character. Just to contradict you immediately, because I think that's what's coming up.
It's my biggest worry, Ravi. Like,
oh no,
I love Doug
Saru
Jones.
is a thing, or Ambassador Saru, because that's the other thing.
Ambassador to Kamino, but then he's not going to be.
No, he's going to be Ambassador to Navarre. He's going to be Ambassador to Navarre. I would love him as Admiral, because we need that foil for Michael, and if he's in the rule setting role and he has the power, I would love to see it. I'm glad that they didn't kill him off. I am so excited. I love to see Doug Jones flex those like parental vibes. We haven't had the Doug Jones appreciation moment that we always have. So let's just
this
like
is it. Oh,
what?
Oh yeah, no.
I loved it the first time, and I loved it on the rewatch. But there's a moment when the reveal happens to Su'Kal, who also, that actor did a great job.
Yeah, really well done.
Agreed.
Could in the hands of another actor could have been really bad. Like,
could have been the worst episode of Star Trek ever.
Like,
which some people say it was,
like
but
no. But the camera goes back around. We see Saru has Kelpie himself again. And
how awesome was that?
Su'Kal is so excited and goes up and touches him, and you can just see like Saru maintaining his composure because Su'Kal is touching his radiation burns, and there's just like this tiny moment of acting where he just like gently like pulls his hand away, and it's like, oh, the attention to detail that these actors are managing to pull off is outstanding. And Doug Jones, I hope I'm next to see you running around the streets of Toronto.
As excited as I was 2 weeks ago to see Doug Jones out of makeup, I was as excited to see Doug Jones in makeup for this episode. There is something so charming and wonderful about his characterization of Captain Saru, that seeing him emote through all those prosthetics, as we mentioned in the previous episodes, it's just incredible. He's such a fantastic actor, and the makeup department has done such a great job in building this face that moves with his. What a great end to that storyline. So yes, definitely a salute to Captain Saru as we welcome our new captain, Michael Burnham.
Well, and I think that this is where, like, the reason I love Saru so much is that every season Saru, I love the fact that Saru's on vacation with their adopted son, like on their home planet, because first of all, that's a really good narrative, is he's constantly trying to reconnect with his heritage and with his, and it's so beautiful in these last 2 episodes to see that come out with the elder and see him trying to, that's a
and they both narrative. Get to discover it at the same time. Yeah, it's really wonderful.
It's just, the future is going to be so nice with them. And then, but the other thing is, that character gets to reinvent himself every single season. And we've already seen the arc of this season, as with the last one. And their new transformation in season 4 is going to be, again, there's going to be some promotions thrown out there. There's going to be new adventures. There's going to be some authority parental things. I think it's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to it.
Before we cut to break, I want to hear Kristen. Do you love Doug Jones as much as us?
Oh my God, I do. I love Doug Jones. I love Saru. I was also incredibly afraid that in this episode, like either Saru would like sacrifice himself and stay with Sukal on wherever they were found, or like that just something terrible would happen and that he would not continue to be like the grounding presence that he is like in this series. It's so nice to also have like a grounded like elder figure who is just like of a species that you don't know. Well, that I have now grown to appreciate what Calpians, I guess, are like. But Saru is fantastic, and I'm so glad that he'll stick around in some regard.
So as excited as I am about Michael being captain finally, I am concerned. Michael has proven to be a bit of a bully of a leader. When Michael thinks something is right, that is what happens, no matter like what decisions are being made around her. We saw that with Stamets. We saw it in the very first episode of Star Trek Discovery. And it kind of feels like after this last episode, we haven't seen much change from Michael. We haven't really seen Michael evolve past that, even though it feels like this series has been saying, Michael, you need to change. Michael, you need to change. And then she's finally rewarded for not having changed at all.
I'm coming for you on this one, Shane. I don't think that's right at all. The biggest mistake she made was season 1, episode 1 or 2, whichever it was, and nobody's ever let her live it down. You know, she definitely is a like single-minded actor. Like she gets it in her head, goes for it. But what Vance realizes at the end is like, we have had a Kirk here all along. Like this is the type of leadership that sometimes just works in space, you know, and nobody wants to give it to Sonequa Martin Green because that kind of almost chauvinistic, like I am right. Like I see the bigger picture. I know that if you let me go on this ship with no card, like a 7 and a 2 in my hand, I will still bring the ship back. And she's right, because there's something that she has, that Kirk quality where she always just knows what's going to come out. And we just got to give it to her. Like this, we've been waiting so long for her to get her due, and she's finally got it. And if they take it away next season,
I'll be furious. I'll be furious. Don't get me wrong. And you're so right. You're so right that it is like, it's totally fine for Kirk, for Riker, for Sisko, for even for Janeway to exhibit all of these like strong leadership, like what I say is what's happening qualities. And then as soon as Sonequa Martin Green does it, we're like, well, I mean, she hasn't changed at all. But no, you're right. This is something that we've shown consistently throughout Star Trek. It works. It works for the formula of TV. I don't know if it necessarily works in leadership in real life. I think people who are kind of heavy-handed bullies like that actually tend to alienate people.
But she being a bully, she's got the trust of her crew. She just didn't have the trust of Vance, and that's the only thing that she didn't have the approval from the gatekeeper. That was it. The same thing happened with the original Starfleet way back in the 23rd century or whatever it was. You know, she did a bad. She got the harshest punishment that anybody had gotten up to that point in history. And, you know, she's come back from it, you know, when she gets onto that crew. Another thing that I don't actually quite like, which I think is more of maybe hopefully a writing thing and not a Cold War thing, is like whenever they're responding to the captain on this bridge, they're always all in unison. Yes, captain. Like it's a little much. I don't know if we've ever seen the like unanimous yes, captain moment on any other bridge.
Oh, it's pretty naval, this show, or Star Trek in general. I feel like we've seen that a few times.
Can I ask, this is just a point out to Picard's character, because just think, and when you're rattling off those names of captains, Picard asked for suggestions. Like, it's
Well, that's why I said Riker and not Picard.
and I think that will be an interesting thing, is to see as she evolves into the position of leadership, if her character changes at all without losing the core her. I think that's an element of maturity in general for everyone, is that you bring in a little bit of what you aren't inherently. You learn stuff. And I think her Wild West kind of approach to her gunslinger approach to things would be strengthened with that being more overt, but again, not in a way that takes away from that's her inherent strength
and suited for the 31st century. She is
clearly, yeah,
Wild West.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, it's interesting to hear you talk about how you don't think Michael has like changed very much. Like, I thought
she's definitely changed a lot. The thing that people say about her has not changed.
Yes, sorry. I'm saying all of this is kind of like, this is the criticism I hear. I don't necessarily believe this all myself. I just wanted to bring it into the conversation because I think it's valid.
Because I do think she's changed as a leader, though. Like, yeah. I mean, yes, she's changed as a character. We know that her being lost for like a year or however long it was, like from her ship, not knowing if everybody else traveled to the future, like that changed her so much. Of course it does and did. But like in thinking about her as a leader, like my perception of her is that she was such, like, for the most part, a rule abider in terms of like how she followed, I don't know, what was expected of her in whatever position that she was in. And like after that year and after being exposed to something different, and like Georgiou says this to her in one episode, that it's like, now you've tasted what it's like to be outside of this machine and how to make decisions for yourself. And you see her flexing that muscle, I think, in as much of a position of power as she has throughout that role, throughout like the season, that I think she really grows into her leadership in a way that she otherwise hadn't before. And while I also have some mixed feelings about her being named captain of Discovery now, I think that she has demonstrated that like her style of leadership does work, and that it also has changed from where she started.
Well
said. I think it's a great point, and I don't think that we can have a season finale episode of Discovery without talking about the arc of Michael Burnham, because the first time we see her, she is this like super straight laced. This poor person has just been getting mixed messages. Should she be shoot from the hip? Should she follow every rule? I don't know. Maybe she'll be court-martialed. Maybe she'll be flung into the future. Like,
maybe she'll be praised. Maybe she'll be jailed.
Maybe she'll be put in the agonizer.
Maybe her mom exists. Maybe her mom doesn't exist. Does her mom still exist? What?
Was her mom there? Oh, who knows?
But we have to give our hats off to Sonequa Martin-Green, who has made it all feel like it makes sense the entire time.
Yeah.
We see her slowly loosen up as a person, come into her own in her leadership style, and she does. I think Kristen's point had a lot more nuance than mine, which is that she does. We see in the very first episode that she does have this kind of gunslinger attitude, and she's just like contained by her history on Vulcan, by the Federation around her, and it isn't until she goes through the trials and tribulations of season 1 and season 2, and then has a year apart from everything, that she truly comes into her own and kind of brings the best of the Federation and the best of that gunslinger attitude. And that's why I'm happy about her being on the captain's chair finally.
This is a good TV character in its essence, right? Is somebody who takes their inherent character composition and then takes the experiences of the episode or the episodes and the seasons and finds that right balance. And this is maybe the knock against Admiral Vance, is it's just in service of the plot without being in service of the character. And as you said, Sonequa Martin-Green has found that balance between what's sort of inherent, what's the driving force behind the character, tainted by the experiences of the episode. And you're right, like it all makes sense. And if it were just anywhere on either side of that fence, it would fall apart. So very well put, Ryan.
What am I going to do without the talk whisperer every week? Now I'm so used to it, that like intensity is so Shane, okay, I think like you tried to get us to break for like 10 minutes ago.
Well, it's time.
I'll give it back to you.
Finale.
There's still so much.
We're allowed to go a little over this week, but we have talked a ton about this episode, and there is certainly more to say. So let's take a quick water break. We'll be right back with our commitment to reconciliation. Every week, we pick a different organization that makes a positive impact in their community, and we make a donation to them as part of our commitment to reconciliation. Last week, we supported the ALS Society of Canada, but Ron, who are we focusing on today?
This week, we are spotlighting a different book list, Bookstore and Cultural Center. They have a brick buying campaign on right now. A different book list provides opportunities for Canadians and visitors to Canada to celebrate and engage in the rich cultural legacy and history of Canadians of African and Caribbean descent. The Buy a Brick campaign is asking folks to buy a digital brick in support of their cultural center's new home at Bathurst Street here in Toronto, where Star Trek is filmed. Your digital brick will be engraved with your name and live at a different book list cultural center for everyone to see. It is a minimum donation, so if you're willing to join us, please just keep that in mind before you log on. And you can go to adbcc.org/donations/buyabrick. We encourage all of our Tuned In Terran listeners to engage with this cause and to donate what you can to help in the fight for peace, justice, and equity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ron. Can't wait to get a brick from Worse in the Borg to the Cultural Center there. So every week we ask our guest panelists, what the Trek? What to you, Kristen, as a casual viewer who has now seen all of Star Trek Discovery, what made no sense, was morally questionable, or otherwise downright confusing about this episode, this series, or what the heck, the whole franchise?
Wow, that's a huge question.
It's a long question.
I was only thinking about this episode, but now my brain can go wild. What confused me a lot this episode was about the hollow, or what is that what it's called? The hollow?
Yeah.
And there are points where, like, towards the end of this episode, where it seemed like not only like the hollow is a program in the way I think of a computer program, but like there is also maybe some like AI components or something. Like, I don't know, do hollows exist otherwise? Like, what is this thing and what are they often designed to do?
So in Star Trek Voyager is where we really explored holographic AI in the character of the EMH, the Emergency Medical Hologram. He was a character that appeared in every episode, and eventually he had sentience as an artificial intelligence, but he kind of gained a lot of agency when they discovered technology that allowed him to be present in the physical world instead of just through holographic emitters. It was basically like a travel emitter. So that being said, holograms have semi-sentience. They are definitely artificial intelligences, and they because of the matter transporter, they are able to like touch, and you can interact with them in a physical way as well. I don't know if that really answers the question, but yeah, it's kind of been established that holograms are more than just projections.
Yeah, that's helpful because I was confused.
Great.
and it also makes me think a lot about like the sphere data and how it like takes over the computer. Like this was all really confusing to me, and I expected it to be like more important than it was.
Yes.
The sphere data was a weaker plot point, I would say, for
existential threat to the universe. Ship's computer,
itty bitty cute little robot,
cute little teddy bear.
I was like, okay, finally, like the sphere data and like the computer are coming together, and there's like Wall-E like robots, and I was like, they are going to like help. You know, I don't know. Like, is it going to change our view of AI? Like, what are we trying to do with the sphere data and the computer and these creatures? And nothing.
This was one of those plot points of this season that early on in the season, it seemed like the sphere data being integrated with the computer was going to be a huge thing. Like, it was going to be part of the crux of this season. And it turns out that literally they were there to save Owo's life in the last second.
That was it. And that was my first note on my rewatch today was, so the .23 seemed to be pretty useless. Why couldn't they just hack back into the ship?
Exactly. Like, Zora was the name given to the sphere data in that short Trek episode that we've talked a lot about. And it felt like that this was the logical conclusion to that story, is we're going to get some kind of like peek into how that manifestation of the sphere data is going to go, but instead it's kind of like a left turn, totally unexpected, and like just a bit of a throwaway gag.
And this is the part of like, there's a lot of haphazard plot writing here. Like there's no need for the sphere data to be a persistent part of this storytelling. Oo could have been saved just a slightly different way. You could have used one of the 9 bridge crew that were stranded behind them to save her. So they're just kind of making a lot of stuff up as they go along, which is a knock against Star Wars as well. There's a lot that's sort of like, okay, we'll throw this in. And if you just like simplified some of these storylines a little bit, you'd find a new way. Hey, what if you didn't hear about the sphere data for like an entire season and then it ominously came back? That would be so like, stop trying to cram
so impactful
every episode.
Maybe season 4.
Maybe.
We did have that really charming scene with Oo and Tig Notaro's character.
I love that we call one by the character name and the other we always just refer
okay, sorry, but
Reno?
like it's Reno, yeah.
Okay.
But which is actually a great.
It's a great name.
Pick the name based off of
the fact that I cannot look at that character and not think Tig Notaro, like it's Tig Notaro,
yeah.
And she's like literally just playing herself. Which
it's true, yeah. It's so great. So like, what also confused me a little bit is how parallel universes work. Like with
that confuses all of us. That confuses all the good ones.
Well, because like, how come Giorgio was able to like cross over a little bit? I know they explained that a little bit, but then like, isn't it weird that you can just be existing and know that there's another like copy of you like that exists and it is like, I guess, an eviler or like more menacing version of yourself than in this universe? Like, are the characters ever encouraged to like make sense of that and have peace with that, or like
no.
Okay.
Everyone knows about the mirror universe, but no one really does anything about its existence.
I don't.
You're what the Treks are the most like on point. They're the ones that are like, yep, that's a genuine plot hole.
I think that somewhere there must be kind of a unified theory of the parallel universes in Star Trek. They use it as a simple plot device starting in the original series, but then it gets like built out. There's the mirror universe, but there's also different parallel universes that happen. There's the Kelvin timeline, which happens as well, and it's never really. I don't know the full description of it, but I always have to talk about, I think it's A Year of Hell, the Voyager episode, where they get quantumly entangled with a parallel universe that's just kind of one step over. So I think the idea is like there's a central point and then all of these universes spread out and they get stuck with this one other Voyager, and every two universes over, the Voyager is stuck with the Voyager next to it, and unfortunately the only way out of it ends up being to destroy one of the Voyagers, and they save on the ship during this whole thing, a woman is giving birth to a baby, and one Voyager loses one of their bridge crew, Harry Kim, and so Harry Kim from the doomed Voyager goes across to the saved Voyager, and now only every other universe has a Voyager in it. So doesn't answer your question, maybe just makes it more complicated and brings you up to the like what the Trek level of the rest of us.
But can I just shout out, like, episodic Star Trek isn't that bad. Like, we don't have to herald like season and franchise level plot lines. Good, clean episodes. I want to shout out 2 Star Trek episodes. One's called Parallels, and the other one's, of course, Yesterday's Enterprise. And they're cleanly, like, they're weird time, like dimension hopping kind of episodes.
Those are 2 of my favorite episodes.
They're 2, of course they are. But they also just like wrap it up. Like, they're just like, okay, great, and now we're done. And we won't revisit this in the future.
Nope, so, never.
Maybe I actually don't mind the idea that Discovery will become a little episodic, because I'm getting a little.
I don't mind either, but I thought that's what they're going to do with Strange New Worlds in the Pike show.
This is my theory: is that Strange New Worlds is going to be episodic. Section 31 is going to be a little episodic, though it has a bit more of a through line, apparently, because of Giorgio. I think Star Trek Discovery is still going to be our serialized Star Trek. As much as they set it up to be more episodic next season, I mean, these show writers love a mystery. They love building an arc that goes from episode 1 to episode 13 or 12 or 14, whatever it is this year. I think that's what's going to happen again. I would be very surprised if they totally veer off track and decide to do the old formula.
So I should be prepared.
Okay.
Be prepared.
And Shane, we'd be dying to ask you, do you have any gossip as to when season 4 is going to start? We couldn't piece it together. Do you know anything about this?
So season 3 filmed between... Oh, hello, Oliver. Season 3 filmed between October 2019 and February 2020, and it premiered October 2020. So based on it starting filming next month, as long as everything goes well and COVID doesn't, continue wreaking havoc with like extra delays, which, it probably will, I imagine we'll see this late 2021 or early 2022. We've got a while, but we've got a bunch of stuff happening in between.
It's not like we're going to be starved for content.
No, I think we'll be fine. But
one of the Star Trek news items I missed in like 2 weeks ago was that it was the 800th anything of Star Trek. Like they've now made 802 individual pieces of projects related to Star Trek, including like the short treks and all of the series and all of the movies. So if we are actually going to do all of this as part of this podcast, we've got 785 more weeks together.
I love it. I love it very much.
Literally a lifetime.
I'm calculating what that means.
Oh no.
It's 15 years. It would take us 15 years every week.
Oh, we'll be like QI. We'll just go on forever.
QI, so
exactly.
that's an okay model to follow.
If it's got Sandy Toxvig at the helm.
I know.
Oh, can we get Sandy Toxvig as like a Star Trek admiral or something? That would be amazing.
I mean, that is a dream beyond dreams.
I'm kidding.
I'll reach out to her agent. Before we wrap up this episode, is there anything that we didn't talk about? I have a bunch of notes, but I want to know if you have anything to talk about as well. Ron, I can see you're chomping at the bit.
I've got so many things still to talk about. Okay, first I want to give Culber some good credit for playing the elder gay quite well, both with Sukal. Like, it'll get better. You're scared now, but there's a better world out there. And then again, we kind of touched on it, like, we'll make sure that you're seen. Wilson Cruz has been doing this his whole career. He's now kind of like reached daddy status. And it's nice to see that those threads being woven in and given value to this kind of like popular medium. And I also just, again, want to shout out the director for putting together. We were a little worried in the last conversation that we might be jumping back in time to see how Book and Burnham got to the point where we pick up with them in season 2. But as a pair, that Hope Is You, part 1 and 2, actually work really well. And I'm going to boil it down to not only his directorial style, but the fact that our entire season is bookended by 2 drug trips with 2 different characters with intense personalities on drugs that are kind of the opposite of who they usually are.
That's
so we got to see Book as this like adrenaline fueled brute, on the flip side to Burnham's like loopy doopy, like
talkative,
completely out of her own character, losing the straight laces.
That. We've come so far.
We've come so far.
That was this season.
And I thought that was just like a really funny, nice way to tie it in. I don't think it made like a commentary on whether drugs are good or bad or not, other than it just like allowed these characters to access different parts of themselves to get through the crap that they're going through.
Love it. Ravi, how about you?
I'm going to draw my attention to another daddy, which is Desi Daddy, Commander Sahil. We talked about it in a couple episodes, maybe it was a couple episodes ago, that character is noticeably absent from this season. But I think it kind of makes sense. Like, I don't love how frequently they have to retcon in plot points and jam it in. But I think this one kind of makes sense. He's on the other edge of the galaxy. They're working towards getting back together. And what I mean to say is I'm really looking forward to hopefully Commander Sahil being a more of a main character in season 4, and it would mate with what he is as a character, this custodian of the Federation trying to piece it back together. So I was really excited to see him. It was a moment of pure joy, and I'm on the record for how much I love that character.
I really hope that they don't just use him as a one-note character, because it was one of my most tearful moments was when he came back, standing proud, and he had gotten his payoff. Out of anybody in this entire season, this is a man. We're being attacked by a cat, listeners.
Down. He's trying to drink my water.
Which, hey, does anybody want to talk about the grudge moment from this episode?
Oh my goodness!
Oh my god!
On intense adrenaline. Is that adrenaline wearing off? Nope. And then.
Nope. Don't you fuck with my cat.
Don't you fuck with my cat. She is a queen.
Yes. I would have done the exact. I would have killed for my cat. Even though I want to kill my cat sometimes.
But yes, Sahil season 4, I really hope so. I kind of think that they were just using him as a bookend, and I really don't hope so, because I felt like his character has a lot of story to tell.
I agree. I would love to see more, but I have a feeling that Sahil was a bit of a plot device to show how far they have come this year from being so isolated to now Sahil is actually part of the family, as it were. I have a couple of things that I want to bring up. I love the Saru Sukal exchange about how Mother prepares him for the outside world, to which Sukal's reply is dangerous, and then having to face it, but you get to face it with people like you. That's when I wrote to the group, gay. So I really love that. I hated that they kept touching their radiation burns. Stamets got sidelined so early in the episode, and it kind of sucked that we didn't get to explore him going through all of this, but I guess we got all of that in season 1, which is why they did not do that at this episode. And lastly, they totally dropped the ball on explaining the song that they discover the nebula because of the song. The song is in a bunch of cultures, and they kind of explain that the resonance frequency kind of went through the entire galaxy at about the same time.
I've got a thought. Was it what he sang at the very end that woke up the computer?
My theory is, this must be a deleted scene. I'm sure one day we will see a deleted scene about exactly what this was. But there's a kind of throwaway part where Sukal is saying that after this traumatic event happened, it was the elder that read to him and sang to him and brought him down. So that means that the timeline is that Sukal saw his mother die, activating the holo program, but causing the burn at the same time, and then the holo program singing to him is what calmed him down. So we can imagine that while Sukal is weeping and crying and causing the burn and hearing this song at the same time, that he's actually projecting this song out into the universe by the same sonic resonance wave that is what caused all of this damage to begin with. Totally unexplained. The audience, me, left to piece this together for myself. But we literally spent 3 episodes talking about this damn song, and there was no resolution to it. So I had to come up with something.
It's got to be in there somewhere.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It might be the song at the end. We'll find out and put it in our retrospective once we figure it out for you listeners. What about you, Kristen? Anything that happened that we didn't get to?
No, but actually, Shane, when you talked about Sukal and like his DNA being tied to like the planet and like dilithium, like that was very confusing for me. And I was like, is this just something that happens in a Star Trek universe?
Oh yes, very that like 30 seconds.
The Godchild is like a trope from
and the Treknobabble explanation. Like Treknobabble is the word that they use for like this moment where they just try and shoehorn as many sciencey sounding words into 5 sentences. And there's actually, if you ever do rewatch this, there's a great moment where Commander Reno, not Tig Notaro, is trying to get through some Treknobabble, and she like, you can tell that Tig Notaro really doesn't care, and so she just kind of half-asses her way through it.
Yes.
And it's not that convincing because it is just kind of like, you know, it's the Deus Ex Machina of Star Trek. Like, it's just science happening. That's all you need to know.
Futurama's Star Trek episode is like the epitome of every Star Trek episode, and I highly recommend it if you're willing to like go out and pay for it. But there is a line where Fry is trying to explain like the technobabble from earlier, and he just goes like a balloon and some air and something bad happens, and that's about all you need to know.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a couple more before you go.
Yeah, go for it.
I thought it was really weird that Voyager was the one who was to take point on the Viridian, I think, because Voyager, as we know it, is an explorer ship, or a science vessel mainly. And why is it now leading the fleet in a militaristic attack? I don't know. That's one that we'll have to pick up.
Oh, well, I have a big one. How big is the Discovery? We saw the inner working because of the turbolift scene, and honest to God, it was like they were flying through the city of Toronto. There was just so much space inside those turbolift shafts.
I don't know. I think it's hard to grasp actually how big these places are, but I really enjoyed. I mean, I remember being a young kid and like trying to imagine how the turbolifts would work when they like stop and would like go down another direction. You know, like how are the shafts working? How are the like wheels working? Of course, it's not wheels; it's matter just coming into existence as you like push yourself along. That was great. What is Adira's species when they
I have this. She's Zahian, and we've only seen
Zahian.
We've only seen them a few
queen
times.
Who eats ice cream and is friends with Tilly.
That's
what I meant.
Short Trek episode Runaway, we see the Zahian queen, and the queen is actually a child prodigy who formulated a way to recrystallize dilithium, and so it's very apt that Adira, a child prodigy, gets put in the body of someone we know who is a child prodigy. It's a nice little nod to the Short Trek there.
Well done to them. And yeah, Ravi, I didn't get your reference in the group chat earlier.
I said the queen, and all Ronnie was like, "You're just misgendering them." I'm like, no.
I don't know.
Yeah, I thought he was talking about the cat.
Yeah, the cat is the queen, right? And then my last little this is a slight Schadenfreude moment. When Osira refers to Book as with dripping disdain as Michael Burnham's special friend. That is something that is something that's leveled at non-hetero couples all the time, and so I did take just like a small moment of when it got leveled at a hetero couple in this show that has been very heavy on the like queer iconery. So
love it. It turns out I do have one more thing.
Of course we do.
So in the original plan before COVID, Lower Decks was actually going to air simultaneously or after Discovery. And so you'll notice that there are a lot of references in Lower Decks to this season. And no more so than both finale episodes. So I watched the Lower Decks finale before we started recording, which is partly why I was late. I'm so sorry. But in that episode, we see like one of the nacelles of the Cerritos blown away. They are literally grabbed in mid-space by giant space hooks, tentacles, just like in the last episode, and that we kind of see in this episode as well. And we also see them get saved at the last minute by an outsider. In Lower Decks, it was Commander Riker and the USS Titan. In this episode, it happens kind of early with Navarre, but also it kind of happens throughout the episode. They're constantly being saved by each other. But yeah, the Lower Decks episode was absolutely written as a nod to the season 3 finale of Star Trek Discovery.
Very cool.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to rewatch.
I cannot wait to rewatch Lower Decks.
Stay tuned, listeners.
Yes.
Before we end, I would like to get Kristen's overarching review of this season. I have been waiting for 3 months to hear what you think. Hold nothing back. You can't hurt our feelings. We want to hear everything. What did you think?
Well, you're, I guess, unfortunate or fortunate for you. I don't have a very good memory, so my comments will be largely like high level. I mean, I think for me, I was, I guess, having watched 2 seasons previously, I knew that I would like this season, and I wasn't disappointed. And I think in particular, in the time that we live in right now, like having something to look forward to, you know, on a Friday night, but often a Saturday morning because I couldn't stay up late enough to watch it premiere at 9 o'clock. That it was an amazing experience to have something that is so gripping most of the time. That again is like very tethered to you because these are your descendants. This is part of the world that we hope, you know, or someone hopes that we become. To have like a little bit of a connection to yourself and the world you live in, but it largely be, you know, this whole place that acts as a real escape, you know, especially if you like space. Space freaks me out, but like, you know, I was able to like put that aside and really enjoy this season. So, you know, I do think that the end titles of the last 2 episodes, you know, centered around hope and connection, really, you know, spoke to me a lot in the time that we're in and allowed me to live outside the world that we currently inhabit, where we are missing those things.
Oh, so well said. Yeah, this season really shone a light on what it means for us all to be connected with each other, and how that unity and that hope kind of ripples outwards. And yeah, hopefully, I don't know, maybe not in 2021, but hopefully in the near future, we start seeing some of that positivity that we're bringing into this world reflecting outward. Thank you so much for being here today, Kristen. It was really great to have you here.
The pleasure.
And thank you, Ravi and Ron, for a great first season recap of Star Trek Discovery.
Yay.
We've done it. We've really done it.
We really done it. We did this for 13 weeks.
And we are going to be back with week 14. We're going to tell you what the 3 of us thought about this whole season and a brief takedown of it. But for now, you can follow us on Twitter at WorseThanBorg and at WorseThanTheBorg on Instagram. You can email us at worsethantheborg@gmail.com. And please remember to subscribe and rate us 5 stars. As always, thank you so much for listening. We have been Worse Than the Borg, and you have been assimilated into our collective. But resistance is never futile. Let's fly!
Let's fly!
Yay.